love affair with the story that's coming back. But I think it's interesting when I think about the Twilight. You know, there's Team Edward, Team Jacob. There's no Team Bella. You know, it's about the two guys. She's like the one in the middle. You know, that's being fought over and being torn and so on and so forth.
Bella is like what? She's got like a super scent. Like she smells good. That's like the Twilight thing. You know, she smells good and she's thrust between vampires and werewolves. And she has incredible power. She's like controlling the vampires. She's got the werewolf battle all hooks on her, but she doesn't do anything. She didn't earn this distinction, and she's also like superheroes don't earn their distinction, but they at least are trying to save the world. She's just Bella, so I don't think that's the best role model for girls. I don't know what you really get out of that.
When given the chance to convey a message, I thought, this is it. This is finally my chance to share my concern about the Twilight series. Over the past 3 years, I've brought up the subject that Twilight is anti-feminist in various of my English classes, but was repetitively met with opposition, particularly from other teenage girls that had read the book. And through this project, I actually learned there's validity to my concern, and there are other people out there, men and women alike, that agree.
Belle's character is a very traditional fairy tale character. She's a princess who wants to be rescued and finds her handsome prince. So how is it anti-feminist? She needs to be rescued by somebody else in order for her to find herself, in order for her to become the strong person that she is at the end. She becomes like a whole person. But it's only through the process of struggling with it and her true love and finding herself through the men in her life. I think it fulfills an important role, which is that it encourages a lot of people to read. But there is that double-edged sword of the person who Belle is not necessarily someone that girls should aspire to want to be. But maybe the debate is about how damaging it actually is. I don't know.
Twilight, and it's not really literature, is you take yourself and you put it on there. So if you look at a story like Pride and Prejudice with Elizabeth Bennet, who's a strong heroine, you feel empowered by her and everything she does, and decisions she makes and all that. If you look at and also her flaws. If you look at someone like Bella, ultimately she's boring.
She was totally uninteresting. She spends a lot of her time depressed. They want you to believe that she's smart. I barely see her crack open a book or study or have any ambitions. No life outside of school other than mooning around her bedroom, and particularly when things go badly in the relationship, she just sort of turns into this like really depressed, sort of unidentifiable person. Avoids her mom, avoids her dad, is sort of off the radar screen, can never be really accountable for where her time is being spent. She just has very little way of ambition or direction, and that is like disturbing to me. Particularly if she then is going to assume the damsel in distress role, and then when she finds that she can manipulate Edward's reappearance in the story by putting herself in the face of danger, that's just wrong. That's just wrong. She's puts herself on, without wearing a helmet on a motorcycle. She's jumping off of cliffs and is not particularly a proficient swimmer. So it's just like in order to call this male into her life to rescue her, who's already said goodbye, like I'm not good for you, but she doesn't even accept that as an answer and move on. Like, well, I'll just get interested in something else or someone else, or choose a different venue and dedicate my time to something more worldly than my love relationship that's not even going very well. So in terms of a feminist, I would say sadly there's a complacency among, not all, but I think a significant of young women that are accepting the male dominance of even recreational reading and movies and this sort of sit back and isn't this okay And I would rather see an outcry of objection. It feels like, if nothing else, then a stalwart, sort of a, no movement in the direction of equality for men and women in a societal kind of culture, that there's almost a complacency of moving, not only stuck, but moving backwards. And that is just something that I don't really want to have generated, particularly by say, in this case, literature, what young girls are reading. And when if you talk to somebody about the Twilight series and you ask them, like, do you know about this? And it's like, oh, that's a teenage girl read. Well, so be it. But the message is definitely something that I find not working for me, and I wouldn't want it working for these young women, because if anything, they're going to be needing to build the momentum and the strength and the clarity to move forward into their futures.
You've got to look at the audience who's reading these books. They're not at a point where they can separate the entertainment component from the reality. And it becomes a problem when Twilight turns into a fanatical craze. Even here at CVU, the Twilight series has been checked out about 300 times in our own library. And I think that's a problem for feminism if these archaic female themes are continuing to be so readily embraced.
I think it points to a symptom of people are just numb or used to these kinds of images, or these kinds of role models of women who are objectified or who are passive. And so I think the danger is that people, that kind of being proactive about self-image and media images in the way that you're buying into it, that's something that could be in education more and that people should be more aware of. I think the fact that people are passively accepting the role of Bella, or people are passively buying into media advertising, means that they are not aware of it. It's not the same thing as being a victim, but it's a matter of being uneducated about how you're being taken advantage of, or how you're not questioning the images that are presented to you.
The misconceptions that were out there, scientifically, medically, for women, if women were going to become educated or outspoken, that was sinful, that would disrupt their ovaries and they'd be floating around inside their bodies, and I'm sometimes shocked like how little students maybe know about the historical perspective of women's rights. And if it feels like it's not important to your generation, then that's scary to hear. The bra burning days, are over. However, there's still a long way to go.
I want the next generation of young women to recognize the messages they're taking in for what they truly are, and to object to how they're being portrayed in literature, especially when it comes down to subliminal messages in modern literature that are being covered up by the glamour of romance. Stephanie Meyer, the author of Twilight, put in her own strong conservative views into her book, and everything about literature is designed. Everything is done purposely, and there are no mistakes. And it's about time girls object to the intent behind the material. It's not so much the messages, but the lack of opposition I find scary.
Let's start somewhere. You gotta tick some people off to make change. You're saying something, and that's a start.
Yes, that's the point of this project, just to get
Form
people
starts
thinking
with the
about it.
individual.